So I'm going to try something a little bit different today. I'm going to answer one of the questions that I have had. This one's come via Instagram, and I'm hoping to do more of these short midweek episodes, less than 10 minutes, just answering specific queries or topics that you bring. And I thought this one was a great one, super relevant right now, coming up a lot in my coaching, and also something that I'm planning to dive into a lot in this week's masterclass. So the question is how to get ahead whilst being mindful of office politics and dynamics. Loving your content. Thank you so much. So I think this is a great question. And I am, without wanting to tear apart the statement, I think the first thing that we want to do is just make sense of the statement, which says how to get ahead whilst being mindful of office politics and dynamics. So there's two parts to dissecting this a little bit. The first is, what does getting ahead mean? I think we need to get really clear on what getting ahead means. Think to yourself what getting ahead means for you right now. It might mean a promotion, it might mean a seat at a bigger table, whether that's at the management committee, executive committee, or maybe a boardroom table, or it might just be certain plum opportunities that you're really keen to get access to, even some really great executive training and executive education programs, some of which, are not cheap. So think about what getting ahead means for you. And then I think the next part of this is actually realizing that most of getting ahead is going to involve others, right? If you're getting a promotion or if you're getting a certain seat at the table, you are definitely going to need to be extremely mindful of relationships and office politics, because these are all going to be playing into your ability to move forward. And this actually brings me to my next point, which is the idea that you can move ahead almost without thinking about politics or without thinking about office dynamics. I think this is the shift that I would really love you to make as you listen to this, which is, it's not really possible to move ahead inside organizations without being mindful of office politics. So the two come massively hand in hand. And whilst, as I'm saying it, you might think, yes, of course, the typical pattern I see in my clients who are often really good at task, really high IQs, really good at churning out high quality work, they still somehow do see them moving forward with that kind of quite high quality work. They see that as separate and distinct from office politics rather than all integrated as a whole. And if I could ask you to make a shift today, it would really be to start to see these as much more integrated. Often it isn't clear enough on the job description. But once we get into the coaching and we try and figure out what is going to make their role successful and make them successful in their role, it is going to be about stakeholder management. It is going to be about those strategic relationships that they cultivate. And often the reason why they're being sent to me if they're inside a business is because they are occupying important seats and they really do need to develop that stuff. And the business has seen the importance of that. And often they have too. They're seeing how it's holding them back. So we've defined what getting ahead might look like, and we have come to the conclusion that the chances are it is going to involve others. And so it almost getting ahead by definition does involve some management of office politics. The second part that I've talked about so far is saying actually it's almost impossible to move forward without really great relational management, especially at the higher levels. I think what can happen is at the early levels, certainly obviously at school, right? We're in a more of a merit-based environment. You work hard, you're smart, you're going to do well. This can often translate into the early stages of a professional career where the promotion stages are really clearly marked out. It's that kind of lockstep model. You spend 1 year at this level, 2 years at this level. As we start shooting for these more rare opportunities, there's not just a set number of people that are going to automatically progress to the next level next year. It starts to look really different. And this is where we do need to make that shift to saying it's very unlikely that you're going to be promoted purely on the content of your work. Okay, the final bit is I didn't dig into more context around this question. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I respond back and try and get a little bit more clarity around where this question's coming from. In this case, I've got a bit of an inkling what might be going on, only because it comes up all the time, and I have spoken about it on some other videos and as well. And this is the idea of the blocking boss. And so, what can sometimes happen is you want to move forward, you want to be developing relationships at higher levels inside the organization, you want exposure and visibility. These are all the right things. However, your boss is sitting at a level inside the organization where they are kind of getting in the way of that for you. Now, they might be doing that very intentionally. They may have decided that they're going to fiercely protect their role, their level at all costs. And if that means that they feel threatened, they're going to make it very clear to those who are reporting to them, for example, that they are not going to condone anything basically that makes them feel threatened. This is just, I find it so sad that this is a way of being inside organizations, and yet I cannot ignore it. I have seen it too many times, and I've experienced it myself. Some people are just very good at deciding that they have that agenda and then doing all of the things required to protect them in that position. And there is something very sort of almost survivalistic about that, if that's a word. So, it's very kind of almost like an animal instinct, territorial type of thing. And so when you've got somebody like that sitting there, you can feel that you are being restricted in the way that you want to be able to reach out and get exposure. And this is a really complex type of situation. In fact, just this morning, I decided with one client, we kind of went through his scenario and we said, actually, it's not going to be that advisable right now for him to reach out to one above his, the layer above his boss. It wasn't going to be advisable because actually it's a really toxic environment right now and it could shoot him in the foot. But that was after quite a lot of systematic analysis of what was going on within his system at the moment. Often, what can happen though is that there is some low hanging fruit around the edges where you can start to develop your informal relationships at that level, at that higher level. And I certainly have found when I've been faced with this scenario, I've certainly found some ways of doing this. They do exist. And the thing that I like to just remind clients at this point is that we don't want to be like that. The enslaved elephant, the elephant that they might have had a ball and chain around their foot at one point, but now they don't, but they still don't try and escape. What can happen is you've tried to reach out before, you've had some version of a rap on the knuckles for doing so, something that's made you feel not good about doing that again. You've received that signal. And for those of us who are conscientious, we want to please, we want to be good employees, we can see that as a sign enough to just get back into our boxes and not find ways of reaching out. And if I could encourage you to do one thing is not to let yourself get into that position. There are going to be ways that you can still really cultivate a strong foundation and a really good relational base inside your organization that is going to help you get ahead. I'm going to drill into this in a lot more detail in my masterclass, and I hope to see some of you there. If you think this topic is of interest to you, definitely sign up. Even if you can't attend, it's only in a couple of days' time, or if you're hearing this on the Wednesday, in one day's time. If it doesn't work with your diary, still register because you will then get the replay afterwards. So yeah, I look forward to speaking with you later on this week. I hope that was a useful episode. Let me know your feedback and definitely let me know if you've got other questions that you would like me to answer in this format. All right, thanks, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. Bye bye.